The Netherlands has been locking up people as a form of punishment for quite some time. The Custodial Institutions Agency, or simply DJI, carries out this task on behalf of the Ministry of Justice and Security. The punishments and measures handed down by the judge are enforced by well-trained and motivated personnel. This makes DJI the specialist in detention, a large organization that employs more than 14,000 people. DJI contributes to the safety of every one of us by enforcing punishments and measures handed down by the judge. This can happen within the walls of a correctional institution, but also outside of one. Every person detained at DJI is called a detainee. DJI prepares detainees for their return to society. This is done to prevent them from reverting to criminal behavior. We call this reducing recidivism. The correctional institutions hand out 80,000 sandwiches per day. Approximately 11 million kilometers are traveled per year for transport and support. And an average cell measures 5 by 2 by 2.5 meters. Linen must be washed for more than 11,000 beds. An adult detainee spends an average of 3.5 months behind bars. There are different types of detainees: adult detainees, juveniles, patients, and foreign nationals. They aren't all held in the same type of prison. Adult detainees on pre-trial suspected of committing a crime are held in a remand center. These individuals are sent to prison after conviction by a judge. The employees are trained specifically by the DJI Training Institute to ensure safety in the correctional institutions. They work with the detainees to build a socially acceptable existence after they have served their time.
Nou, het mooie van mijn werk is dat het mensenwerk is. Gedetineerden zijn geen nummer. Het zijn gewoon mensen die je ook gewoon de menselijke aandacht wil geven. Het is ook specialistisch werk, waar een intensieve opleiding aan vooraf gaat.
The detainee must show that he wants to take responsibility by behaving well and by actively partaking in his or her reintegration. This is possible by working in one of the workshops in the prison or by following specific courses. If they don't do this, they will face reduced participation in activities like sports or will have reduced visitation rights. The ultimate goal is to make sure that as few detainees as possible take up crime again once released. Juveniles who have committed a criminal offence or are suspected thereof are held in a correctional institution for juvenile offenders. In the Netherlands, approximately 2,200 juveniles are held in such an institution each year. Most of them are between 16 and 21 years old. All correctional institutions for juvenile offenders work with the same basic methodology: U-turn. With this methodology, it all revolves around learning skills and individual responsibility.
Ik werk heel erg graag met jongeren. En natuurlijk ondergaan ze hier een straf. Maar binnen die straf doorlopen ze een traject wat heel erg toekomstgericht is. Al onze jongeren doorlopen een verplicht dagprogramma. Ze krijgen onderwijs en andere activiteiten in het kader van pedagogische vorming.
Juveniles follow mandatory education during their detention term, and treatment is an important part. Each juvenile follows a personal future-oriented trajectory which aims to ensure that he no longer shows criminal behavior. The role of parents is also important. This is why parents are invited for regular talks in the juvenile correctional institution, and they are present at parent evenings or at graduation ceremonies. Detention is a costly matter. Each day, more than 11,000 individuals are in custody. This costs approximately €2 billion per year. That's a lot of money. DJI invests in the future by introducing things like video calls, which allows the judge to talk to an offender and his or her lawyer through a monitor. That saves costs for transport to and from the court. Also, multi-inmate cells can be introduced more often. The Transport and Support Service is responsible for the transport of detainees and those arrested. More than 150,000 transport turns take place each year. The Transport and Support Service is also responsible for maintaining order, for searches using drug detection dogs, and for evacuations of correctional institutions. Complex security and police support are also some of the tasks carried out by this department. Forensic care is usually imposed by the judge. It forms part of a punishment or measure for people who suffer from a mental or psychiatric disorder, who committed a criminal offense. The best-known measure within forensic care is the Forensic Psychiatric Treatment Measure. A personal treatment plan is prepared for a patient in forensic care. The purpose of such plan is to change the person's behavior to such an extent that he does not commit a crime again.
De behandelingen zijn zeer intensieve, weliswaar gedwongen behandelingen, zowel in groepsverband als individueel.
Forensische zorg heeft hier echt een dubbele taak. Het gaat om opsluiting voor de veiligheid van de maatschappij, maar zeker ook om de behandeling van de justitiabele in de verschillende fases van zijn resocialisatie.
Forensic care also works hard each day to ensure that the patient can return to society safely. Other authorities, like the probation department, take care of the patient's needs once the treatment has been completed. Another group that DJI encounters is foreign nationals. Immigration detention is a very complicated matter. DJI works closely with many other organizations, like the police and the Central Agency for the reception of asylum seekers. A last resort, such as immigration detention, may be chosen when someone tries to prevent deportation to the country of origin. It generally applies that people who have been refused entry at the border and people who are not allowed to stay in the Netherlands any longer, yet refuse to leave, end up in immigration detention. They are then deported to their own country as prescribed by the law.
Nou, de sfeer hier is anders dan bijvoorbeeld in een huis van bewaring, waar ik ook heb gewerkt. Er is meer vrijheid voor de ingeslotenen en ook meer activiteiten. Maar dat is ook nodig, omdat ze niet mogen werken. En er zijn ook geen onderwijsmogelijkheden. Hier zitten over het algemeen andere mensen in bijvoorbeeld een gevangenis, waardoor we ook op een lossere en andere manier met ze omgaan.
The period for which they are held depends on the actual foreign national's willingness to cooperate. If the foreign national cooperates, this period can be shortened dramatically. DJI ensures during the immigration detention phase that cooperation organizations get all the room they need to allow for the best possible preparation of the person's deportation. Besides the Transport and Support Service and the DJI Training Institute, there are 3 other national agencies: the Netherlands Institute of Forensic Psychiatry and Psychology, the Spiritual Care Service, and the Shared Service Centres. DJI employees work in buildings that are tailored especially to the enforcement of punishments and measures. They are trained intensively by the DJI Training Institute and work in a trustworthy, professional, respectful, and people-oriented manner. This in turn allows for peace and safety in the correctional institutions. By maintaining this working method, DJI strives to make sure that people don't take up crime again once released.